Batroun is a historical coastal city in northern Lebanon, 54 kilometers from Beirut, continuously inhabited since the early Bronze Age. It dates back to 3rd millennium BCE and was mentioned in the Amarna letters as Batrona. During the 1st millennium BCE, Batroun remained modest, later named Botris by the Roman, who valued its wine production. In the Byzantine era, it became a bishopric, but was devastated by a 551 earthquake. It later passed through the hands of Banu Ammar, Crusader, and Mamluks, entering a period of decline. Rebuilt in 19th century, Batroun today is known for its historic souks, sandstone architecture, and vibrant heritage. In 1857, Batroun was officially recognized as a Lebanese historical monument for its rich archaeological heritage, including an unfinished Roman theater, Crusader citadel remains, and the iconic 220-meter seawall. Batroun is also a significant Christian pilgrimage site, home to historical churches like the Basilica of St. Stephen, St. George Church, Lady of the Yard, and Lady of the Seas. After the Civil War, the old suit declined, losing its artisanal life. Starting in 2000s, revitalization efforts began, but were slowed by recent crisis COVID-19, economic collapse, and the Beirut explosion. Despite this, the souk has been modernized as a tourist destination to boost its visibility nationally and internationally. The objective: this study aims to develop a participatory model for co-constructing sensory atmospheres in historical souks, aligning residents' perception with the souk's sensory identity to strengthen community belonging and support local heritage revitalization. Research question or hypothesis: how can a model for co-constructing sensory atmospheres in the old patrimonial souk of Batroun be developed by integrating the visual, auditive, and olfactive perception of its inhabited, and what does this approach have on residents' sense of belonging and the revitalization of local heritage? A participatory hypothesis: a participatory sensory-based approach to designing urban atmospheres in Batroun's old patrimonial souk will foster a harmonious co-construction of these atmospheres, enhancing residents' sense of ownership and attachment to their environment. Involving residents in defining the sensory quality of souks will strengthen their sense of belonging to the space. Integrating sensory perception into the revitalization process will contribute to the culture and emotional renewal of the souks, reinforcing its local heritage.
As for materials and methods, in our research on Batroun historic souk, we adopted a sensory and participatory methodology to investigate how restoration and conservation have transformed its spatial atmosphere. A key method was the commented city walk by Jean-Paul Thibault, which involves walking with participants through urban spaces as they articulate their sensory perception in real time, capturing the embodied and atmospheric dimensions of place. Our sample was intentionally diverse: current and former residents, accommodation guests and hosts, business owners, new entrepreneurs, and everyday visitors, both day and night. These walks, paired with semi-structured interviews, allowed us to explore how the souk's identity has shifted in response to urban change.
A child olfactory journey through the back street of Batroun. This personal reflection highlights how thanks shape childhood memories in Batroun, turning the old souks into a vivid sensory landscape. Each alley carried a distinct fragrance: wood shavings from the carpenters, burning metal from the blacksmiths, fresh lemons at the vendor's stand, and the salt breath of the sea at the harbor. Even the butcher's spice evoked warmth and family gathering. These olfactory memories acted as invisible marks, guiding, comforting, and shaping the narrator's experience. Today, this scents serve a powerful triggers of memory, revealing how a sensory atmosphere form deep emotional bonds with place and identity.
In the aftermath of Lebanon's recent crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, the economic collapse, and the 2020 Beirut port explosion, tourism flows shifted dramatically. No longer centered around Beirut, they redirected toward the northern coast, with Batroun's historic patrimonial souk becoming a focal point. Our research focuses on a specific pedestrian trajectory from Saint Stephan church to the so-called diaspora village, tracing through Street 14, Street 1106, and Street 11. Each of these streets reveal a distinct phase in the transformation of sensory identity. In Street 14, once resonated with the intimate sounds and smells of traditional craft, the rhythmic hammering of carpentry workshops, the scent of baking bread, the quiet exchanges between neighbors living above their shops. Today, that intimate socio-spatial fabric is all but dissolved. Ground floors are now dominated by restaurants, pubs, and boutiques. The air carries fast food, alcohol, and narghile smoke. The sonic layer has shifted to amplified music, tourist chatter, and delivery noises. In Street 1106, presents a more ambivalent transformation. Historically, a quite residential zone, it now splits into two narratives. One side still holds onto its residential character, while the other side is increasingly invaded by tourism infrastructure. Courtyards are now restaurants, sitting areas, family homes have become guest house. This is a street in sensory tension between memory and commercialization. In Street 11, here the sensory experience is more layered, more complex. While many houses have been restored and repurposed into accommodation, the commercial intensity is less aggressive. Instead of loud music, one hears the hum of tuk-tuks, the distant echo of church hymns, and the strains of Oriental music from a newly established music conservatory. The soundscape shifts gradually from the warmth of home-cooked meals to the sweet aroma of pastries and Italian cuisine. Arriving to the diaspora village, the experience crescendos, sacred and commercial sounds interferes. This auditory layering reflects a new urban condition where the sacred, the nostalgic, and the recreational coexist. What we observe is not only a reprogramming of space, but a dislocation of familiar. The scent and sound of home are not just fading, they are being overwritten by new atmospheres. For many long-time residents, this shift is not just spatial, but deeply existential. The scent of morning coffee, wood shavings, and home-cooked meals has given way to fast food, narghile smoke, and loud music. Glenn Albrecht's concept of solastalgia captures this sense of mourning for a place that physically remains but has lost its emotional substance, where one is at home yet no longer feels home. Workshops once alive with generational craft now stand as boutique shops or rentals. This form of dislocation, as Benoit Goetz writes, is not physical eviction but symbolic and emotional estrangement. The transformation of Batroun Souk mirrors global trends of over-tourism and urban commodification. Residents are often seen watching from balconies, still present, but surrounded by unfamiliar tempo. Amidst high-end restaurants and passing tourists, their everyday lives persist, but now feel like intrusions in a place that once felt like theirs. This tension is echoed in cities like Venice, Barcelona, or even the Casbah of Algiers. Homes are converted, soundscape altered, and smells replaced. Across these cities, in Batroun, we see a consistent pattern. Spaces once shaped by belonging now serve as settings for consumption.
In conclusion, the Batroun case stands out for its open participatory methodology, particularly through the use of commented city walks to capture changing sensory landscapes. Unlike more rigid heritage model in cities like Algeria, Venice, or Barcelona, Batroun's approach centers on resident lived experiences, promoting more inclusive and emotionally resonant urban heritage practice. This transformation calls a multidisciplinary perspective, blending environmental psychology, urban sociology, and heritage studies to develop strategies that address not just visual aesthetics, but the sensory and communal life of historic spaces. Thanks.
Thank you.